Welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. You asked for it, and here it is, my bookshelf tour. Well, maybe 5 or 6 of you asked for it, and I aim to please. But a warning ahead of time. Think of this as kind of like a before and after project. My wife and I have been talking about building some nice bookshelves in the basement, perhaps even having a nice recording space down there for me, for my videos. But that is the after, that is the future. Right now, our books are scattered all over the home in various bookshelves in various places. So I'm gonna take you on a little bit of a tour here, and I hope you enjoy seeing perhaps the randomest collection of books you'll see on BookTube. Also, a trigger warning for those of you who don't like seeing well, it isn't the prettiest book collection, I'll tell you that. Some of the books are old and some of them are tattered, and this is a warning for those of you with a bit of OCD. Some of the books in a series are different sizes, so just warning you ahead of time, it won't always be pretty. But I do have some nice ones too that I hope you'll enjoy seeing. So here we go. Okay, starting here with some books that are probably familiar if you've watched some of my videos before. Mostly these are medieval books. There's my Riverside Chaucer there on the end. Beautiful book. Some medieval literature here, and mostly some Arthurian stuff. A lot of Middle English here in this section, and some lays from Marie de France, and a bit of Welsh medieval poetry by David ap Gwilym. And yeah, and here we start with the Old English stuff. So this stuff is translated. There's my pipe that I never smoke, but I have it. And we have lots of nice Old English. So there's Beda's Ecclesiastical History, very important text. And we'll move down. More Old English stuff, and you can see how many editions of Beowulf I have here. Some lovely editions. This one here is the old Claber edition. Is classic stuff right there. And I have, the Exeter book. Yeah, that has some great poetry in it. Just lovely stuff. And some Old Norse as well. So you'll notice that I have some dictionaries here. There's an Old English dictionary and an Icelandic or Old Norse dictionary here. Viking language. This is also Old Norse, and you'll see here that I have the Eddas in Old Norse. Here I have both the prose Edda and the poetic Edda, and I have some of the sagas here in Icelandic. So yeah, good stuff there. And one shelf down, you'll see this is actually, who's this guy? This is my dissertation that I wrote on William Morris's translations of Icelandic sagas. Wonderful if you have insomnia. And moving on, there's the translations of Eddas, more sagas. And here we get to my William Morris section. Here, beginning with this book, this is one of his saga translations. This is his translation of the Volsunga saga. This is the saga library that William Morris did with Eiríkur Magnusson, an Icelandic fellow. And this was published in the 1890s, so these are some of my older books, and this is what I wrote my dissertation about primarily here, these books here. So these are just beauties right there. They have old maps inside, and I literally had to cut the pages because back then they published books with the pages uncut, so I had to cut them to read these books. And here are Morris's fantasies. These are his fantasies published also in the 1890s, although these are more modern editions, some of them with pretty groovy covers. And here we have, moving into Tolkien territory. Yeah, so there's the Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, and the Hobbit there with the nice runes on the side. Here we are with more Tolkien stuff. And there's an atlas and some other editions of the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales. There's another copy of the Lord of the Rings there, Children of Húrin. Also have his letters there and other things. And even a dictionary of Elvish. And there's some C.S. Lewis there from my childhood. And we have some mythological books here next. So lots of Celtic lore. There's my copy. This is a translation into modern English of the Mabinogion. And there's some Celtic stuff there. And then we move into the Germanic myths and more mythological stuff. The Iliad and the Odyssey, the Aeneid, the Kalevala. We have some great stuff down here, the Upanishads and some Buddhist stuff and Hindu stuff. And there's also some of Joseph Campbell's books and the Arabian Nights, a copy of the Quran and the Bible, and a bunch of really great literature here. Okay, now I'm down in the basement and we've got some historical texts and some stuff about the Celts. There's also the Winston Churchill's history. I got a lot of history stuff down here. And there's more history stuff over here. A lot of British stuff and Norse stuff and that sort of thing. Oh, and here's some of my language stuff. So I'm beginning here with the Welsh material. There's a little New Testament in Welsh, a couple dictionaries. Yeah, some beautiful stuff there. Continuing with the linguistic stuff, there's Nepali, a little bit of Hindi in there too, and my German. And there is some French stuff there, Latin. So the linguistic stuff. Oh yeah, and there's my old Latin textbooks from high school. They were old even when I was in high school. They're probably ancient at this point. More linguistic stuff here and history of the English language, that sort of thing. And yeah, there's a big old French dictionary too. Good stuff, some atlases. I love maps. Okay, here I have a just hodgepodge of just literature. Lots of, pretty great titles you're going to see in there. I don't have it very well organized, but yeah, just tons of stuff there. Most of these books here are going to be from the 19th and 20th centuries. Just a lot of stuff in no particular order, I'm afraid. And there's some more of these classics. And here we go, a few more classics down here. And there's my complete Shakespeare with some great poetry. Charles Dickens, Jane Austen, the Brontes. Great stuff. I'm just going to go quickly through all these. There's some more literature and lots more and even more and some more. And here at the end of this shelf, you're going to see a few fantasies there. There's some Anne McCaffrey and Little Terry Brooks, Octavia Butler. Some good stuff there, actually. The classic there with E.R. Edison. And here's what you came for, the fantasy. So I do have one whole bookcase that is just fantasy. Here, obviously, is the Stephen Erickson stuff. The Malazan Book of the Fallen, also the Carcanus trilogy, what's there so far. And there's the Beaucalain and Corbel Brooch. And then I get into the Esselmont books. Apologies for the different sizes. I did warn you. At some point, when we get the nicer bookshelves, I'm going to have to get all books of the same size. And there's a little Terry Pratchett, a little bit of Dresden Files, N.K. Jemisin, and there's Scott Lynch's, what we have so far in The Gentleman Bastards, The Poppy War. There's some Patrick Rothfuss, Name of the Wind, Wise Man's Fear, and the little Slow Regard of Silent Things. I'm afraid I won't be adding to that collection anytime soon. Oh, and here's the other one I'm beginning to despair I'll be able to add to anytime soon is George Martin's Song of Ice and Fire. And here we have little Tad Williams. Yeah, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And I only have the first two books of Wheel of Time. I rented the others from the library when I read the series a long time ago. Eventually I want to get some nice editions when I do my reread of the Wheel of Time. Here's some Robin Hobb. I've got Assassins, or the Farseer trilogy, as well as the Liveship Traders trilogy. Bit of Ursula Le Guin, Wizard of Earthsea, Glenn Cook's first three books of the Black Company. Here we have Mark Lawrence. I've got 2 trilogies so far of his. Broken Earth and Red Queen's War. Mary Stuart, there's a good classic for you. And here is Bernhard Hennen's Elven books, Little Naomi Novik. And City of Brass, I haven't read that yet. Rage of Dragons, haven't read that yet. Stephen King. So I've read the first 2 books. I have the first 4 so far. Same thing with the Witcher books. I've read the first 2, have the first 4. Looking forward to getting into the novels there. A little bit of V.E. Schwab. There's some Neil Gaiman, American Gods. I love that book. Also, I love The Ocean at the End of the Lane. And here we have some John Gwynne. This is a writer I'm just starting to get to know. I've read Malice. I'm looking forward to the other 3 in this series. There's Amish's Shiva trilogy. R. Scott Baker, The Darkness That Comes Before, the first book in that, I guess, first trilogy. And down here, one of my favorites, Joe Abercrombie. I've got all the First Law books so far published, including Charbonne's. The only one I haven't read yet is that short story collection. And I've got Dune here. And Raymond Feist's Magician. This is a short story collection edited by Robert Silverberg, The Legends. Some of you will recognize that. Tomi Adeyemi's Children of Blood and Bone. Oh, I'm missing the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, the original trilogy. I think my daughter's best friend has borrowed that. And apologies again, totally different sizes. One hardcover, but you all recognize Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. Okay, real quick, I'm just gonna whiz through these. I have more shelves than I even care to admit. There's a ton of books here. A lot of these are my wife's books from her studies. She has a PhD in women's and gender studies, so you'll notice a lot of books along those lines. We've got just a bajillion books here of all sorts. And some travel books, music books, books on human rights, and textbooks from college, science books. A bunch of children's books over here too. And Reshma wanted to show you some of her books as well. She took these down from her desk, didn't want to show her desk, but she's got all the Percy Jackson books here. And Christopher Paolini's Inheritance Cycle. A little bit of Neil Gaiman. And the Harry Potter books. She's reading some manga now. And the rest of the Percy Jackson books. And here's the last bookcase I'll show you. More theory stuff, some great books. There's a History of Women. And there's a little Ganesh there. More great books. Too many to discuss. A lot of good theory here. And a little bit of fiction. Oh, and there's a quick peek at my wife's dissertation. So I hope you enjoyed that quick tour of some of the books that have gone into the brain of Philip Chase. Knowing what a person reads is probably an interesting way to get to know that person, I suppose. I've got a couple exciting things coming up. I have a discussion of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, specifically on Guardians of the Moon, coming up very soon with some very good friends and some BookTube buddies. And I am personally right now reading Mark Lawrence's, the second book in his Red Queen's War trilogy. So I'll have a review of that coming up. I look forward to seeing you guys. Until next time.